There are roughly 7,000 languages spoken on Earth today. And linguists have discovered that the human brain actually processes them in fundamentally different ways depending on whether you grew up speaking an Eastern or a Western language. Not just different vocabulary, not just different grammar, different cognitive pathways, different perceptions of time, different relationships with reality itself. The gap between these language families is so profound that some researchers believe it shapes how entire civilizations think, solve problems, and see the world around them. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to discover exactly what separates Eastern and Western languages at their deepest structural levels, why those differences matter far more than most people realize, and the one finding from neuroscience that genuinely shocked the linguistics community, because it suggests that the language you speak is quietly shaping your thoughts in ways you are completely unaware of. By the end of this video, you will never look at communication the same way again. To understand the divide between Eastern and Western languages, you first need to understand where these language families actually come from. Western languages, including English, French, Spanish, German, and most European tongues, trace their roots back to Proto-Indo-European, a reconstructed ancient language spoken roughly 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. Linguists have been able to piece together this ancestor language by comparing patterns across dozens of modern descendants. Eastern languages, by contrast, include the Sino-Tibetan family, which covers Mandarin and Cantonese, the Japonic family covering Japanese, the Koreanic family, the Dravidian family of South India, and the Semitic family covering Arabic and Hebrew. These families developed largely in isolation from Proto-Indo-European, producing radically different solutions to the same fundamental challenge: how to communicate human experience through sound and symbol. The first and most obvious structural difference is the writing system. Western languages almost universally use alphabets, systems where symbols represent individual sounds. The Latin alphabet has 26 letters. The Greek alphabet has 24. These systems are phonetic, meaning if you learn the letters, you can at least attempt to pronounce any word, even if you do not know its meaning. Eastern languages frequently use logographic or syllabic systems instead. Mandarin Chinese uses over 50,000 characters in its complete dictionary, though a functional literacy level requires knowing roughly 3,000 to 4,000. Japanese uses 3 separate writing systems simultaneously: hiragana, katakana, and kanji, sometimes within the same sentence. Arabic, while technically an alphabet, writes only consonants by default, requiring readers to infer the correct vowels from context. This is not just a cosmetic difference. It means Eastern language learners are building an entirely different cognitive relationship with written text from childhood. But here's what nobody talks about when comparing these language families: the difference goes far deeper than writing. It goes into the structure of time itself. Western languages are obsessed with tense. English has 12 distinct tense forms. French has over 15. German builds compound tenses that specify not just when something happened, but the relationship between multiple past events. Every verb in a Western language forces the speaker to commit to a specific point in time. Mandarin Chinese does not work this way at all. Mandarin verbs do not conjugate for tense. Instead, speakers use context and optional time markers to indicate when something happened. The verb to go is identical whether you went yesterday, are going now, or will go tomorrow. Japanese and Korean use a different approach. They do encode tense, but they also encode the social relationship between speaker and listener directly into the verb form itself. A single Japanese verb can change its entire ending depending on whether you are speaking to a superior, an equal, or someone below you in social rank. This brings us to one of the most fascinating structural contrasts: the role of the subject in a sentence. Western languages, particularly English, are strongly subject prominent. Every sentence needs a clear subject doing a clear action. You cannot say "is raining" in English. You have to say "it is raining," even though that it refers to nothing in the real world. Eastern languages like Japanese and Mandarin are frequently topic prominent instead. The sentence does not need to revolve around who is doing the action. It revolves around what is being discussed. In Japanese, subjects are routinely dropped entirely when they can be understood from context. A conversation about yourself can proceed without ever saying the word "I." The implications of this subject dropping phenomenon are enormous, and researchers have connected it to measurable cultural differences. A landmark study by psychologist Richard Nisbett at the University of Michigan asked American and Japanese participants to look at the same underwater scene. American participants, raised on subject prominent English, consistently described the focal fish first. Japanese participants, raised on the topic prominent, context-sensitive Japanese language, described the background, the watercolor, the plants, and the environment before mentioning the main subject. Two groups of people looked at the same image and literally saw it differently. Nisbett argued this was not coincidence. The grammar you grow up with trains your attention. Another critical difference lies in how Eastern and Western languages handle numbers and mathematics. Mandarin, Japanese, and Korean all have exceptionally logical number systems. In English, children must memorize irregular forms, 11, 12, 13, words that give no structural hint of their mathematical meaning. In Mandarin, 11 is 10-1, 12 is 10-2, 23 is 2-10-3. The logic is completely transparent. Researchers studying mathematical learning across cultures have found that children speaking these Eastern languages reach arithmetic competency significantly faster than English-speaking peers, not because of genetics or education quality, but because the language itself makes the underlying logic of numbers immediately visible. Honorific systems represent another profound divergence. Western languages once had robust honorific systems. European languages still carry formal and informal pronouns like French vous versus tu, but English has almost entirely abandoned this distinction. Modern English uses you universally regardless of the social relationship. Eastern languages have moved in the opposite direction, developing extraordinarily complex systems of social encoding. Korean has 7 distinct speech levels. Javanese, spoken in Indonesia, has an honorific system so elaborate that linguists describe it as essentially 2 separate languages layered on top of each other. Thai verbs, pronouns, and even particles change based on the gender of the speaker and the status of the listener. Learning these languages means learning not just words but an entire map of social relationships encoded into every single utterance. What does neuroscience tell us about all of this? Brain imaging studies have revealed something remarkable. When native speakers of logographic languages like Chinese read text, they show significantly greater activation in motor cortex regions, the parts of the brain associated with physical movement, than alphabetic language readers do. Researchers believe this reflects the embodied, stroke-by-stroke nature of learning characters. Reading Chinese literally involves the memory of hand movements. Meanwhile, alphabetic readers show stronger activation in the phonological processing regions, the areas linked to sound. Two groups of humans doing the same task, reading, are using meaningfully different neural hardware to accomplish it. The question this raises is both exciting and slightly unsettling. If language shapes perception, attention, mathematical thinking, social navigation, and neural processing, then the 7,000 languages currently alive on Earth represent 7,000 slightly different versions of human consciousness. Every time a language dies, and linguists estimate one language disappears approximately every 2 weeks, humanity loses not just words but an entire cognitive framework for experiencing reality. The urgency of language preservation becomes suddenly much more concrete when framed this way. So what are the practical takeaways from understanding these differences? For language learners, the first insight is to stop expecting your target language to mirror your native one. When you learn Mandarin and discover there is no future tense verb form, that is not a gap in the language. That is a different philosophy of time. When you learn Japanese and find that the subject disappears, that is not carelessness. That is a worldview where context and relationship matter more than individual agency. Fighting these differences slows you down. Embracing them as windows into a different cognitive universe is what actually unlocks fluency. The second takeaway is that no language family is superior to any other. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Lang Bridge for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.